That's right, you are now listening to Tommy Tom's One Mic. Warning, this podcast contains explicit language, triggering or sensitive topics, and controversial discussions. Thank you so much for tuning in to Tommy Tom's One Mic.
I'm Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Split personality, you know it's I. You never seen my kind, never seen a fucking sliver or a slice. I'm the butcher, choice cuts, know I'm nice. You got beef? I got waggle with a knife. Now I'm gonna be wrapping up bodies up at night. Like Ray Charles, y'all know I'm out of sight. Now I'm gonna be slaying niggas, cause you know I love the life. Yo, you gotta read between the lines. I'm only gonna be moving when I'm read through all the signs. Johnny Mnemonic, I got an upgraded mind. This is for the rebels and their revolutionary minds. Cybernetic linguistics, you know I'm on my mind. Prototype the new dimension, man, that shit is mine. Future is creation and creation is sublime. Make your own legend, only happens with time.
Let's hit the mic.
Hey guys, welcome back to Tommy Tom and One Mic. I have a special guest with me today. It's Mr. Mike Lauro. Am I saying that right, Mike?
Yeah, you got it. Surprised that you got it, but you got it.
Good. Yeah, I'm always like scared when I see people's last names, and I forgot to ask that before we started pre-recording. Like, oh shit, I forgot to ask him how to say his last name, so I didn't fuck it up.
Yeah, you got it right. Most people add vowels, and I'm just like, why? There's already a couple in there. You don't need more.
Oh no, look. I'll give my government last name since I usually go by Tommy Tom, just because they kept fucking up my last name.
Oh, really?
It's 6 letters. It's Prang. It's Rang with a P at the beginning of it. Just Prang. And it was always Prange. And like, I don't know what it was in certain places where like they had to write my name. It's like they took the N, flipped it underneath the G and made it into a U, and it was like Pregu.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know how they did it. I remember that like on the bus one day, it's like Thomas Pregu. There's like my assigned or something. I'm looking at it. I'm like, Jesus.
It makes you think how many teachers we had were just dyslexic and no one told them.
Definitely.
Because I had like so many teachers of mine growing up, they would call me Lorio. And I'm just like, what? Like
Lorio, yeah. So I personally
I thought it was a fat joke.
Yeah. I personally just don't use my like last name now for comedy because I'm just like, I'm tired of it. Like I have to explain it to them. And I remember one like club owner got like mad at me. It was like, what's your name? Tom Prang? That's Thomas Tommy Tom. And he's like, it's just go Tommy Tom. And he's like, what's your name? And I was like, all right, Thomas Prang. And I gave it to the guy and he fucked it up. And I was like, never again. I'm just gonna stick with it. That's
what's kind of lucky with me, like in the New York and Jersey area. It's like everyone's Italian, so they can pronounce it. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, I believe Prang is like German or something. I think it has like a German roots or something.
I can see that.
Some side know that. Mike, I'm happy to finally get you on. Finally to actually, I guess, verbally talk to you. You know.
Yeah. I mean, I can turn my video on if you want, but I'm not much of a presentable.
Yeah, I leave it open. I leave it open to the people I'm interviewing if they want to like show their face or not. I usually just do it anyway, just for shits and giggles.
Got you.
I mean, I'm not recording the video. I'm just taking the audio for now. I'm not at that level yet. I'm working towards the video.
I have a podcast with a guy, Steve Picaro, that we're a mutual friend of ours, and we do it's drinking games. So I was like, we have to do it video because like the audio, like no one understands drinking games is audio. Like so we did from the start video. And it's tough, definitely, but once you get used to it, it's pretty good.
Yep. I'm sure. Mike, I was introduced to you through our mutual friend Preston, who I also interviewed. So tell me a little about yourself. Like you can give like that Reader's Digest version of your backstory or whatnot. You know, being raised by wolves or whatever.
Yeah, I'm a Jersey-based comic. I'm actually born and raised in Staten Island, New York, though. But now I'm a Jersey transplant. So in like 40 years, I'll be in Florida.
Yeah.
I look forward to that. But yeah, been doing stand-up a little over a year now. So basically, like, I mostly know pandemic comedy more than anything else. So so like, I can't wait till we get to like the club scenes again. Like it used to be. Like I had a little bit of it, but not much. But like right now, it's just all like underground, like punk fucking comedy shows for us, which is kind of cool. But I want to get crowds going again. That's what I want. Yeah, that's pretty much
That's Reader's
all there
Digest.
is.
We'll dive in. I'd like to learn more about the Staten
Mm-hmm.
Island roots. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
saw that when I was looking. I was like, oh, Staten Island to Jersey. I like the comparison of you're going to end up in Florida at some point. If it tracks.
Makes sense. Yeah. I mean,
So
if it's not broken, why fix it, right?
yeah, true. So you've just been doing you pretty much got jumped into comedy during the pandemic. That's kind of crazy, I think.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I started like literally. I think my first mic was like 2 or 3 weeks before lockdowns and quarantine started,
oh
and
shit.
it was so miserable when that happened because that's when I was like, I was like, oh, I want to do this. I was like in love with it, and then everything stopped for like 2 months, not even like a month, but it was
You
miserable
just
that
get
month.
that like you got that taste. You're like, oh shit, I got that hit. I'm feeling good. I can't wait for the
Yeah,
next one. And then it's like, oh fuck.
literally. That's like basically like with like the first time you have sex and it's like you can't have sex again for like another couple months. You're just like, what the fuck?
Just that kick in the dick real quick.
Yeah.
But I always like, how do I say this? I always look at like how people get into comedy and all that, and like I don't know. You probably follow Joe Rogan. What am I asking? Most
Of course.
people
Yeah.
listen and all that. I always jump back to this interview he did with Anthony Jeselnik, where they're talking about how people get into comedy later are like crazy or something. Like it's you should start young or something like that. And I like that you said you only did a year, which means we pretty much started at the same age. Like I started when I was like 27, 28.
Yeah,
like,
I actually know exactly what episode you're talking about. I think that was around the time when I started like thinking I was like, maybe I should try this finally. So it's just funny because like that he is a big influence on the reason why I kind of started. Like it kind of like because like there was like a 3 or 4 podcast period where he was just talking about when he started and like the things you go through, and like hearing that where he was basically just like, dude, everyone sucks when you start, so like don't have that fear. And I was like, oh word. So it just like kind of was like, fuck it, I'll do it. Why not? And that was like, it was so weird that it was like that was the influence type of thing for me, you know. I guess not weird because he is a stand-up, but
I like for me, like I was watching this thing called the Movie Trivia Schmodown. It was like a movie trivia thing, and the guys that run it are guys that pass for the comedy club, and there would be times that for their own shows they just start talking about comedy. I'd just be listening, and I just love the discussion about comedy so much that it was like. I think a lot of people that try and get into comedy, it is that what you kind of showed of just being like, oh, I don't have to be great right in the beginning or something. Some people, they can't accept that. They're like, oh, no, I got to be good. They don't, I think they're afraid of that bomb, as I usually talk about.
Yeah. And I think that's so detrimental when you're afraid of it. I feel like sometimes you got to embrace it because that to me, like, especially like right now. So most of the like open mics and stuff that we do right now, it's like you're doing it with all comics. Those are the only people in the crowd. And it's people like I'm new and that there's people in the crowd that have been doing it 5-10 years and stuff. So like for me, like maybe the first couple of times I didn't do bad. And then all of a sudden I'm starting bombing because I'm like, oh, I didn't write anything new. I'm doing it for the same 10 comics I've seen the last 4 or 5 times the past week. So like it kind of forced me to like, I needed those bombs because it forced me to like write more, forced me to like just quickly get better because all I wanted was to hear those laughs again, you know? Like, so some people, when you're afraid of bombing, it's just like, you're never going to get better if you have that mentality, I think.
Yeah, you got to challenge yourself. I mean,
like
I said, I'd have people like hit me up because they know I was doing stand-up or something. And the question would always be, how do I get into it? I was like, just do it. Find a mic and go and all that. And there's like this hesitation of like, oh, no, I thought maybe you could put me on one of your shows or something like that. And it's like one of those things of like, I'm not going to put you on if you're not going to do the work and shit like that. Like, actually go to an open mic, try it. I'm not going to have your first time be standing there in front of an actual audience and all that. You should probably do it in front of like a bunch of comics who are all sitting there waiting to do their own jokes, not really paying attention, just to see if you actually really love this.
Exactly. Like that's the big thing. And like I find it funny like when you try to bring up an open mic to like normal people and like they just think it's a show when it's not. Like I've like hosted a couple mics and like I promote like I'm hosting this mic, come out, and then it's like family members of mine like, oh, I can't wait to go see you, and be like, I'm not really performing. Like I was like, I'll do a couple of minutes, but like you're not like, don't come because like it's not a show. Like that's what I would say. Like it's just like people doing stuff, and it's probably gonna be bad. So like just expect that.
More often than not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for my first year, I pretty much just kept going to the city like every weekend or every other weekend and just hitting as many mics as I could and whatnot. And I like what you said about like having to change your jokes. Like I had a rule that I wouldn't do the same joke twice at the same mic or something. So that forced me to have to go around to other places to use that joke or something.
Exactly. That's what like this, I think the pandemic's really helped me in my first year compared to other comics' first year, because it made me like realize, oh, I need to recycle jokes. Like there was a point like where every week I had new 5 minutes by that Friday, because we're basically doing the same mic. So it's like the first couple days, maybe I can get away with doing the same joke because I'm working on it. But then by the end of the week, I have a whole new 5 brand new that I could start out and I'm good. Where it's like, well, if I did this like outside of pandemic, I probably would have the same 5 for the first couple months, just like going around to different open mics and just like, oh, this works, so like let's keep doing this, you know?
Oh yeah, I mean, like I think one of the I was at a mic and I know this guy kind of came in late. He had like this hot chick with him and all that, and he just like he's like, yeah, I need some time or something, and he just goes up and he starts doing his set, and all the comics start just like saying the joke for him and all that. It's like he pauses, he like guesses, he's like, and then this, and they're like, he's like, oh, fuck you guys already know. It's like he brought a girl to impress her to an open mic, and it was just like, oh man, bro,
worst, bro. And that's something like I don't want people like, of course there will be bits people remember, but like I don't want to be one of those guys where like I go to a mic and people can recite my set for me. Oof. I don't ever want that, you know? Like I feel like that's such a bad like place to get in, because there's so many comics I know that have been doing it for years that like they go up and everyone's like, oh, I know this kid's set word for word, and they'll start doing it with them, and it's just like it's fun in the moment, sure, like because like it's almost like we're making fun of you but not really type thing, but like I don't think you should ever want that feeling, you know?
Oh no, that's settling. You're just settling.
Yeah, exactly.
This is it. I know some comics that, you know, you have that specialty joke or that joke that's like, all right, I got this in my back pocket. If things start to go a little sour, I can throw this joke out and I know it will do well. And you get a little too comfortable with that.
For sure. And especially like as a newer comic, if you get that one joke like, oh, this works really well, better than anything else I've done. Like I feel like you start like every time you go up, you're like, I'm doing this joke no matter what. And then you realize, oh, I need to not do that. Unless you're at a show, obviously, that's different. But
yeah. Oh yeah. I'll refresh certain jokes over for different shows, different audiences, and all that.
Yeah, you gotta know the audience for sure.
At the same time, I'm looking for a challenge for myself. Like I don't want to stick with the same premise and idea and all that.
Exactly, you get bored of it yourself.
Mm-hmm. You're a Jersey boy and all that. Like Jersey's been I guess, at least from my side in New York, is like I've viewed that as like a little more open than say New York. Like a little more.
I mean, it's been generally slightly more open in New York. I think the comedy wise, a lot of stuff has been like underground, like hush hush stuff, like Fight Club style. So like there's that, but it definitely it's been probably like more open than New York for a while. Like we were able to go inside for a lot longer than New York did. Like New York, they were inside for like a couple weeks, and all of a sudden that got taken away. Whereas like Jersey, we basically once we went inside, we haven't gone back. So there's been that. Because that's my hesitation recently about going to the city. It's like I don't want to go to an outdoor mic in the winter. Like get the hell out of here. Like I can go indoors in Jersey. It's the same shit. It's gonna be comics. Like who cares? I'd rather not freeze. But now at least New York, they're going a little indoor again. But I'm waiting for capacity to get a little higher, because like there's certain places where like they're doing mics like one after the other, and it's like as soon as you go up, you have to like leave the room so other people can go in. It's just like it's a hassle more than it is like helps, I think.
Yeah. The city, like I enjoy the city mics. There's like I've done it enough that I know which mics I want to go to and which ones I don't. just
for sure
atmosphere and hang out and all that. And most of those have been pretty much blocked during this whole pandemic and all that.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Going back to producing my own shows just so I could get some stage time and some motivation to keep going and shit like that.
Yeah, it's tough, definitely. Especially like in New York, like you're saying, like there's basically only like 3 spots doing mics. And that's it.
Yeah.
And they're just doing mics all day.
And like I don't live in the city. I live upstate. So it's like, am I really gonna take like a bus to go down to the city just to go to Central Park?
Exactly. Like, yeah, I live in Central Jersey. It's like, am I going to drive or take the like path train into the city just to go into Central Park and do it to people that aren't paying attention for 5 minutes? Like,
yeah, it forced people to get creative and figure out new ways and stuff. See who wants it and who doesn't.
Exactly.
But like, what made you actually want to jump into comedy and all that? I guess and actually stick with it.
A lot. Like, I mean, I've wanted to do it since I was like a little kid. Like, I've been obsessed with comedy still because it's always my favorite thing. But like, it was always that fear of like, I'm not that funny, like always that kind of fear. And part of, I think, what really pushed me was, so I went to school with high school Pete Davidson. So it's like, yeah, not only am I from Staten Island, like obviously I know like the Staten Island stand-up, like, and like, so I went to high school with the kid, I would bullshit with him, and like all of a sudden see him on SNL, engaged to Ariana Grande, like I saw it now, and in my head I'm just like, when we were in high school, I was funnier than him, I thought, like, like I thought it wasn't, but you have that ego to you. So like part of me was like, oh, I should try this because it's like not necessarily I would be Pete Davidson, but like I see him and it's like, it'd be cool, like see if maybe that ego wasn't all ego, And then also just like I was like going through something and I was like, fuck it. If I don't do it now, when am I gonna do it? So I just said fuck it. And I fell in love before the pandemic, and then it was kind of just like I was dying to get back up. So when like things like people started announcing outdoor mics and stuff, I was like, I'm there, and I just started going every day of the week I could. Like there was one point I was like, I think I took like 3 or 4 straight weeks where like every night I was at least one mic. So it was like I was like dying to do it. So now I'm just like fully emerged, I guess.
No, that's awesome. Man. Yeah, once it hits, you're just like, I did always love comedy, and it was that one of my friends wanted to try out a mic in the city because we knew somebody who was doing it out in the city. He wanted to catch his mic, and we just kind of stumbled into one, and I realized he was gonna like wuss out from it. So I was like, well, if I do it, then he's got to do it. That bravado thing. So I did it, and I was like, you know what? This like brings me back to being like a little kid almost again. When you had to like share stories in front of the class and shit like that. It's like,
like show and tell kind of.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? I could do this, and then I just started hopping on the bus every weekend and just going down and just like spent the first like year and two just hitting up every open mic that I could on the weekends when I wasn't at work and shit, and just checking out the scene, figuring out that voice part of being a comic, because that's like that's the real, I guess to me, that's the real key in this business, is just like figuring out your voice.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's the toughest thing for a lot of people is like finding that voice.
Because it takes a lot of like being real with yourself. Really, like you have to actually look at yourself and be like, all right, who am I? How am I presenting myself and all that? And it's like you could create a character. You could be fake or you could be real.
Yeah, I mean, like whatever you're comfortable with. For sure. And obviously, there's some people that like they'll see their favorite comic, and they're just like, oh, that's how he does it. And like you don't even realize you're doing it, but you start doing like them on stage, and you see that a lot. And then it's just like people then end up having to figure it out on their own. Like, oh, I'm doing him. I need to do myself up there. Like they're not necessarily doing the jokes; they're just like the same habits and stuff. So like I feel like you see a lot of that in the beginning with some people for sure.
Yeah, mimicry. Yeah, you see the mimics. Yeah. Like, all right, this is what I know. This works, so I guess this is what I got to do.
Exactly. Like you see in the city, everyone does Mark Normand impressions essentially because it's just like he's the top dog for a lot of people.
Yeah,
and that's a big thing in the city.
It's well, it's the survival game.
Yeah. Literally.
I think a lot of people think, oh, if you're just funny, you'll make it and all that. It's like, no, there's a lot of other work in there, building connections, networking, shit like that.
For sure. It's like I love seeing people new and then they come in like because they're like, oh, it's always the funniest person in the room, but like it's my friends and stuff like that, and they come in like, oh, I'm not even the 10th funniest person in this room right now. Like just that ego check, you need it because we all are that kid, you know.
Oh no, it's like it's a crazy. Like I've never considered myself the funniest person in like the room with my friends and all that. I have plenty of friends. I'm like, you're funnier than me. You should be doing this.
And yeah, I agree. I have a couple for sure.
And they're just like, no.
Yeah.
Because and I think one we put it, he's like, I don't want to do the work for it. That was he was like upfront and blunt about it. He's like, I don't feel like doing the work. I know I see the work it actually takes to actually do it and be comfortable doing it. I'm good where I'm at.
Yeah. I think a lot of people from the outside, they don't realize like how much like time and energy is put into this shit. Like especially like people like our age when we started, it's like I have a full-time job. So I'm working 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday. And then at night going out and like, obviously during pandemic, it's hard, but like outside pandemic, I plan like every night, try to do 2 or 3 mics a night. And like, then I have to wake up at 6 a.m. and shit, go right back to work. And that shit, like, you don't realize the toll that you have to go through to just like make some kind of a name, hopefully, you know?
Yeah. I always had this thing after I do a show or something when I going back to work that next night or because I do overnights, going to work that next night was like the most depressing thing ever. Like, how do you feel sometimes? Like you go from like the high of like doing the mics and all that, and then you have to go to the 9 to 5. Like, is there like a little kick for you or anything or?
Yeah, like especially like open mics is not so much, but like if I'm like on a show, like on like a Thursday or something like that, and having to go back to work on that Friday, and like in my head, I'm just like, I was just in a room where 20 people were left, and everything I said, now I'm just like the little bitch that everyone has. Like I have to do some work right now, and it's like such like a blow almost, you know, like it's like the two ends of the high spectrum.
Oh yeah, it's like it's a quick drop. It's a quick drop off.
Yeah.
You know, the mics are fine and all that, but when you actually do a show or something, it's just like, oh, it's like the most depressing moments for like a while. I just like kind of stand there for sometimes and just like, oh my God.
Yeah. It's just like, why am I doing this? Like, why can't I be making money in comedy right now? That helps the drive for sure, though.
Oh yeah, that's what I was about to say. Yeah, it just acts as a motivator. It's like, all right, I need to buckle down. I need to do this. I need to get out of here.
Exactly.
I tell my bosses all the time, it's like, just fire me. Just give me a reason. I can't quit right now, but if you fire me, it's a different thing. I'm forced to.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think that's a lot of comics where it's like when you get to a point where like for you to get further, you have to like put it all into it and like quit your job and just do it. And like I think so many comics, there's a reason why they stagnate is because like it's so hard to quit your job, especially like if you're in your 30s and stuff like that. Maybe you have a family. Like there's so many other factors that are to get into it where like I need this paycheck that some people like unless they're getting fired or let go or something like that, they're not going to do it because they're just like I need this. So it's like it's definitely tough.
You want that stable paycheck
for sure.
You know, because you know, sad as it is, the world operates on money. Like I don't really care. Like my first year, it was like the people had like this strange grandeur when they thought about comedy. When I was like, yeah, I'm doing comedy. I was like, oh, how long are you doing it? It's like a year. Oh, what's the most you got paid? It's like, I'm not getting paid.
Yeah, like I don't even think I've made $100 yet.
And they like look at you like you're a fucking idiot or something. I'm like, what? And I have to like look at them. It's like, nobody knows or gives a fuck who Tommy Tom is. They don't know who that is. You expect them to just go into the clubs and shit and just be like, hey, I'll do this mic for like a couple thousand. You know? No, it's not. It doesn't work that way. And it's like so weird, I guess. You know, you have your friends outside of comedy and your friends inside of comedy, and trying to explain a comedy to the friends outside is always like difficult. That I know for you, I sometimes feel like some of my friends still think this is just like some little thing or something that they don't get or understand.
Oh yeah, same thing with me for sure. It's like especially because so I forced a couple of my close friends to the first couple of mics I did just because like out of just like having some kind of like familiar face there to help me
Yeah.
type thing. So like obviously they saw me do the worst I've done, obviously because it's in the beginning, and you see like at an open mic, there's people that aren't good, and they're just sitting there just like, none of these people are gonna do anything. So it's kind of like they look at it as like, oh, it's just a hobby, which it is, but like
Hmm.
obviously all of us have that hope and dream that it becomes more than that, you know, and like my friends still don't like realize like that is a possibility at some point, maybe be years, but there's a possibility. So
Is
there's
it?
definitely that.
It's that corny phrase of it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's
Yeah, for
think
sure.
of like guys like Rodney Dangerfield. Dangerfield didn't fucking hit it until he was like in his 50s.
Yeah, dude. He was doing like he stagnated and then he quit for like 20 years and then finally he went back and just all of a sudden he's the biggest fucking name in comedy.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
that's pretty much how it works a lot. It's just you're gonna take a lot of lumps, and those that can take them, they'll survive and they'll make it, and those who don't, they'll go on and do something else. And
Yeah,
that's ultimately what you got to decide for yourself. Is like, do I want to really stick with this? Do I want to go through all the bullshit, or do I
yeah,
just want to take the easy route?
for sure. Like I look at it and I keep like Pete Davidson again, like he was doing it when we were like seniors in high school, like 17, 16 years old. And like I'm thinking back like to then, I'm just like I would have never been able to do this back then. Like and it's like I felt like now was like the right time for me to do it because I would have either abandoned it or just been the hackiest hack of all hacks 10 years
Yeah,
ago trying to do it at 17 years old, you know?
right.
So it's like I think everyone finds it at the right time, and if you don't love it, you drop it, obviously. But I think that's all creative arts. Like if you don't love it, you're not gonna stay with it.
No, and but like that goes back to that thing I was talking about with Rogan and Jesselnick, the starting later in life. I look back and I'm like, I'm glad I started later. I had to.
Mm,
I was a wild boy in my 20s. I was a fucking degenerate, but I needed those stories. Now I got those of go to
for
jail,
sure.
rehab, all this shit that I had to go through, and it's like, yeah, I'm glad I didn't start comedy during that because I probably would have just quit and gave up on it.
Yeah. Or you would have went so far off the deep end that you might not have been able to come back.
Yeah,
That's
I
definitely a
think for
big
some
issue.
people it does take that like age and maturity kind of thing of just like, all right, I'm more comfortable with who I am, so I can do this.
Oh, definitely.
You know,
That's definitely a big thing. And like I see that even with like people like I see that are 10 years into it where it's like they're finally like feel comfortable on like with themselves and on stage and they've been doing this long like they finally really feel that and like it's just like they had that maturity finally like in the beginning they weren't mature enough but they loved it they just kind of like needed that grow into it type of thing.
oh yeah, well that's forever the key. That is forever what
Yeah,
you have to keep in your mind forever. Like you can't just like think, oh, I got it now, I got it now, because
yeah,
there's always going to be something new or something different that you can add or try and slip into your act, or even just going back and looking at like jokes I did my first year, how much those have changed. Like I've had to go through all my archives of videos and shit that I have, and I'm just like, oh, it's so horrible. It's so
oh
horrible.
yeah. I even look at shit I did like 6 months ago and I'm just like what was I doing on stage like
What am I doing with my hands? What?
yeah.
Where am I going?
Yeah, and then it's funny, like it's nice to see the progression though. At the same time, like sometimes the slow progression where it's like you get comfortable on stage and stuff, like seeing how different you hold yourself up there and stuff. It's definitely like it's cool seeing it.
Oh yeah, man. That's I think that's like one of my favorite parts of just like, okay, I'm so much better now. All right, cool. If I keep this
Yeah.
up, I'll get better from what I'm doing now and shit like that.
Oh yeah. Especially like from the like when you're doing it, you don't realize like you're getting better. Like maybe you'll get more laughs. Maybe that's how you realize. But like everyone in their own head thinks like, especially like if they had like a good set but not a great set, like in their head they're like, oh, I bombed. But then you look back, like say if you watch a video and you're like, oh, this is a lot better than what I was doing like however months ago or whatever, you know. It helps with the ego, I think.
Yeah. Ego is key. You can't be too big on yourself right there. I mean, I remember, I like where your head's at. Like, I remember probably one of the first showcases I ever did, I think at the stand. I was sitting there and I was talking to a couple guys there, and this guy's talking, and I like to throw out the little thing of like, oh yeah, I don't want to be, I'm not looking to get Oprah rich. And the guy's like, oh, I'm trying to get Oprah rich. I was like, oh, how long have you been doing this? Like, 6 months. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll talk to you in another 6. We'll see where you're at. I've never seen the guy again. Who knows?
Yeah, he's trying to get rich quick shit, basically.
The quickest one I've heard is like Kevin Hart in like 5 years got some deal. But even then, he was like a back player in like fucking Soul Plane and 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yeah. Well, it's I don't know if you know Ron Funches.
Yeah.
Dude, 2 years into the game was already headlining at the store, which is wild to me. Like, most people 2 years in, maybe you're lucky opening for somebody. Like, 2 years in, you're headlining at the store. Like, that's wild.
It's crazy time.
And like people and people I think respect him now, but like at the time there was a lot of hate towards him because they were just like, he hasn't put in the work. But like, when you're good, you're good sometimes, you know?
Yeah, the talent's gonna show.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, I'm gonna take a quick little break, and we'll come right back. So we'll catch you guys right after this. And we're back. Tommy Tom here. I'm with my boy Mike, talking comedy. I actually thought about this, Mike. I was curious. What was like your first joke that you did on stage there?
The first joke I did on stage, I think it's because so I work in an office, and like the first joke I did on stage was me saying like how I work in an office and there's one guy that sits next to me and he just sits there and just farts all day. And like I was like, that's kind of disrespectful, you know? So like in my head, I was just like, I'm a gentleman, so I walk around the office and I crop dust that bitch. And that was the first joke I did. The first joke I ever wrote, it was actually way better than that, I think. But like I was like afraid to do it. I had to have somebody like one of my friends tell me like, oh no, you should do that. So like that was kind of a weird thing. I felt like it's like a joke I still kind of use sometimes, but.
Do you write out the whole joke, or do you do like bullet points, like memory?
It depends. I think if I see like something and I can think of a premise, I can't think of necessarily a joke right away, I'll write down. But like there are times where like I think of like a whole joke, like when I'm just like see something like, oh, and I write down like maybe, then I'll add tags as I go. But like I'll write like the main idea of the joke, I guess, when I'm doing it. I need it definitely. I think that is good sometimes, but it's something that it's not necessarily doesn't have the longevity of other techniques. So that's why I'm trying to learn the different techniques to like make sure like I can keep writing and like force myself to get better at writing. Because that's something like I think in the beginning that's tough. I feel like for sure.
I went to school for writing, and like for some reason I used to like when I first started, I wrote out the whole joke, but what I ended up doing was like I became too rehearsed. I felt with it that it was like I was reading a script. It didn't feel it's like natural to me when I was like performing. It was like, all right, I know I got 5 minutes. I'm timing myself as I go and do the joke and everything like that. I'm going crazy, like OCD with it.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, no. I need to draw back because you know that rehearsal, I'm not counting in for any audience reaction or anything that I could play with or do something with.
Yeah. See, I'm kind of lucky where like I never necessarily had a problem with like speaking in front of like the class and stay in school and stuff like that. So like I was very good with like being able to like think off bullet points. So like you said, like I'll usually like sometimes I'll write the full joke, but like when I'm say if I'm going up, like doing open mic, whatever, I'll just do bullet points and whatever. And then I'll just reference the bullet point and like, so like I'll do basically the joke that I've written down, but it won't be necessarily be word for word, I think. So I think that helps me doing the bullet points that way. But yeah, I agree. Like, especially in the beginning, like I felt like I was very rehearsed, even like, cause I think it's just something that like it's the most natural way to do it in the beginning, I think, because it's like you rehearsed it a couple times and stuff. That's something I've gone away from the rehearsing part, because it's like, to me, the open mics or the rehearse,
Yeah.
It's like I'd rather, like, because no one gets mad at you if you have your phone out or notes out when you're at an open mic, because all of us are workshopping. It's like if you have that and like you're just going through the jokes like that you have written down, like, and obviously you're not reading it word for word, you're just going bullet points, but like that's the rehearse. I feel like where if I'm going a couple times on a mic, that's enough rehearsing for me, because I feel the same way. If I try to rehearse it, it's gonna come out over rehearsed,
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, and with a notes thing, you don't want to do that at a show anyway. That's an instant turn the crowd on you.
Oh yeah, for sure. But that's what, like, if you're doing enough mics, you have it in your head, like, and that's what, like, and I'll study my notes, like, obviously if I have a show, like, I'll study my notes like the couple of days before just to like memorize it. But at a mic, like, it doesn't matter, like at a show though, it's totally different for sure.
Oh yeah,
you don't ever
Mike's,
want to be that guy.
Mike's, you have the notes there, but like I try and do it without it. But they're
Yeah,
there
generally,
if I can. It's just like you said, it's practice.
Yeah. No, yeah, I was just gonna say same thing, where it's just like, yeah, like you generally don't use it, but then every once in a while you're like, oh, what was the next joke I wanted to try out, and like you reference and go back that way type thing.
Oh, yeah. Have you had I don't know, any interesting mic experiences or anything like that? Like I know, like, going to the city, I've had like some experiences where there's like, or even like my previous story about the guy coming in with a girl trying to impress her, and all the comics just like reciting the exact same joke he's gonna do that he like stumbled on.
I think the craziest thing I've seen is I was at a mic a couple weeks ago. This was actually where dude, clearly homeless, and was already like half in the bag, was in this bar that we are doing the mic at. So the bar owner kicks the guy out. Immediately, the cops stop him and they let him go. And then he comes right back into the bar. And they did this like 4 or 5 times, where like he was constantly getting kicked out of the bar, and then the cops pull him all over and stuff. And like, I don't even know what happened to the guy. I think he just like fell asleep on the side of the bar. But it was just wild seeing like the back and forth. It almost looked like a Benny Hill type of fucking thing.
Just play the music there, watch
exactly.
it go back and forth. So, you're only a year in, but do you have like, have you set up any goals for yourself and all that?
Like, obviously the main goal in the beginning was just like, get good. Like, like, so that was the goal, is like kind of like figuring out like what makes me funny and conveying that on stage. So that was like the original goal. I'm like, I think I've figured that out for the most part now. It's obviously it's writing more jokes. But like the next goal I have obviously is like get to a point where like I'm consistently getting booked on shows, like every week or every other week at least, like kind of like I have a couple things going on, So that's something that's the next goal I have in the next like year or so, like getting to that point. Because that's a good point. Like, because I feel like at that point, like you have the respect of the scene on your side, which is a great feeling,
Oh yeah. When you finally feel like you're respected when you go to a place or something.
Exactly, which it's hard to do in comedy, hard to get that.
Oh yeah. You're with a bunch of egos that they want to be the best at what they're doing. So
especially open mics, everyone's just like, oh, that guy's not funnier than me, fuck that guy,
Mm-hmm. It's like, why do I have to give you my attention?
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, it was tough going to like the city in the beginning, just because like you can tell when you don't live in the city, you can tell, because a lot of these people, they're going to the same mics and all that, so they've already built like these kind of connections, and you're kind of like outsider looking in sometimes.
Yeah, but sometimes that works in your favor, I think, because like I feel like generally if you're new, like it's the first time someone's seen you, they'll give you attention just to see like, oh, is this kid good? So like sometimes like if you come in there and you have a really good set, that could like be the great first impression you need, especially with the city crowd, because obviously like outside of LA, that's like the mecca of stand-up. So like you want to do well in the city.
Yeah.
So like sometimes if you're an outsider and you have that great first impression, that'll help you a long way for sure.
Yeah, you got to play the game sometimes and do that. I
Yeah.
know for me, it's just finding people with same mentality. That's usually how I meet comics, and I usually book them for these shows that I do and all that, you know. It's like a kind of like met somebody, they met another person, they introduced me to Preston, they got Preston booked, and then Preston's getting you and Steve and all that, and it's just like, all right, cool. It's just like this progression and all that, and
it's like great networking, and like I feel like you make friends in places like you would have never like made these friends, you know?
Oh yeah, like, and it's like so funny with like certain people that you're just like, oh, there's these like similarities and shit. Like I didn't know Preston worked at, I guess, my neighbor's store at ShopRite, and he quit ShopRite and all that. I was like, oh, all right.
Okay, that's why cool. I worked at ShopRite too. Probably not the same one, but I did. So we all have that little similarity.
Yeah, the little ShopRite hatred and all that. I was like, nah, man. You know, I was going to quit before the pandemic, and then the pandemic came, and it's like, shit, I guess I might as well keep this essential worker money and all that. I didn't want to be the. Then I'm looking back, I was like, damn, I could have made more money on unemployment this entire time.
Yeah, that was the most depressing thing, I think. Like, I could have made all that much money in unemployment. The only solace I've taken is obviously, like, the job I have now. I have a 401k, so, like, obviously you're not getting a 401k if you're on unemployment. So, like, that's the only solace I'm taking, where I'm just like, at least I'm saving up for my future, if there is a future. If we fucking all die from this shit, who knows?
Yeah. Zombie apocalypse.
Yeah. After the fucking vaccine, we all become zombies.
Gotta love it. But no, I mean, I like your attitude about comedy and all that. Like I said, year in, that's impressive. You know, I like people who have that. I'm entering 5 years, and I still feel like I'm still rookie learning. I don't know if you, I have a hard time sometimes saying, yes, I'm a stand-up comic. It's like,
I definitely feel that.
It's like, oh, it's like you don't feel poserous, but you still somewhat feel poserous. Yeah. That it's like, no, I haven't hit that level yet. That I'm like, yes, this is what I do.
Yeah. Like, it took me even a while just to make like my Facebook picture, me with a mic in my hand, you know, a generic stand-up comic fucking Facebook picture. Because I was just like, I just didn't accept it. Like, I'm still, like, in my head, I was like, I'm still new. Like, if someone's gonna see this, be like, look at this fucking kid, you know? Like, I didn't want that. But obviously, like, people were just like, yeah, just make it your profile picture. Who gives a fuck? Like, and even then, like, it's the same thing. I still do. Like, I feel like a year in, like, I look at some of these people that, like, 5 years in, like you said yourself, like, it's just like, I look, obviously, I'm the rookie. Like, I'm still learning all these things. Like, so, like, I could have the best set of the night, but in my head, I'm still learning, you know? Like, I'm just trying to, like, get better and better. So hopefully 5 years down the line, I'm in their shoes type of thing, you know?
I think my goal for, like, every mic or show I've done is, like, I just don't want to be the worst, you know? Just,
I feel that.
That's the main
I go into it where it's like, I want the best set, but obviously, like you said, like, I also don't want to bomb. Like, I want to be at worst middle, but obviously everyone wants to have the best set, so.
Yeah. There can only be one, Highlander.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing's a better feeling than when you do better than the headliner, though. I'm not gonna lie. But you also don't want to take his shine away if he's the headliner, you know?
I don't want to even say, I'm not going to say the club, but I did a show. It was actually probably the first, like, bringer showcase that I ever did. And there's this one guy that went up there, and he was like, he was odd, and he, like, the other half of the room was, like, empty, and he's, like, pointing, he's like, oh, this is, like, Narnia or something. And we just, like, kind of referred to him as the Narnia guy. And it was, like, years later. Actually, during the pandemic, I learned. It was like, oh, shit. That dude was the owner of the club. One of the owners of the club. I was like, oh, okay. It makes sense now. It makes sense.
I was waiting for you to be like, and that man is Robin Williams.
Nah, Robin Williams is my goat. That's my dude.
He was my favorite for a long time, but then I heard all the stories of, like, him, like, taking jokes from people and stuff like that, and, like, that's the big, like, that's the cardinal sin. So like he did it in a different way where it wasn't like he was, like, ripping off people, but still, it's just like, it's hard to look at someone the same way when you hear that, you know?
Oh yeah. No, it hurts. It does. But, like, with that joke still, you still don't see people talk about him in the same vein that they talk about like Mencia or something.
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
for sure.
And it's just
it
like
was different.
it was
like,
a
the way he did it.
personality thing. It's like he wasn't
Yeah.
like arrogant about it, trying to make money. It's like, nah, this is probably just a slip up, just with how he does it.
That's what it was a lot of times. It was like slip ups.
Mm-hmm. Like when I say he's my goat, that was the dude I think that first introduced me to the idea of comedy and all that. Like when I was a kid, it was always who was the funniest, Jim Carrey or fucking Robin Williams. That was like the big thing, because it was like when I was like in elementary school, that's when Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, all those came out, and then you had Mrs. Doubtfire and shit like that. So it was like, which camp are you? Are you Robin Williams or are you Jim Carrey?
That's funny. I was more like growing up. It was like Jim Carrey or Adam Sandler. It's like I understand what you're feeling like. So it's like, that's what it's like. I think it's like that little like different age group, a couple years where it's like it went from Robin Williams to Sandler. But like I totally understand where you're coming from. Like, and like obviously I grew up watching Mrs. Doubtfire, fucking Aladdin, all his movies. I love them. Like it's
dude. If I had to go with like, because I always do like your Mount Rushmore or something. He's on my personal like there's comics like Pryor and Carlin. It was like, all right, yeah, those are like they're given. They got to be on the Mount Rushmore. But then I have my own personal.
For sure.
There's only one comic that's on both of them though, and that's Don Rickles.
Oh, Rickles is fucking amazing. His shit, it's so timeless. His jokes. That's what I love about it.
I love when like you ask me like who's the best roasting comic. Everybody's gonna say Jeff Ross and all that, and it's like y'all never seen Rickles and what he did throughout the years, like just going at it. And
he
like,
transcended it.
It was like he was so vicious, but like nobody took it personal, and it's just like you just laughed at it.
Yeah, he was so good that he could roast like legit mafia, and they would be like, "This guy's hilarious," you know, that. Like that's so hard, you know. Like most people would have just got killed that night, you know. Like,
oh yeah, there was a story I think for the Reagan inauguration. The only reason Rickles got on there is because of Sinatra, and he wanted them there, and they're in the back with Dean Martin. And Frank's getting like chastised, and there's no drinking and all that. He takes all the booze out, and Dean's like, all right, fine. And then Frank goes out, and Dean opens up his jacket and pulls out like a bottle. He's like, all right, let's go. And then he just went out there and fucking tore up the president of the United States.
And that's a cool feeling in itself, especially back then where it's like you're allowed to really tear into them. Now it's like you're so worried, like political wise. I feel like back then, like there was obviously the parties for sure, but like, it wasn't as much as like, oh, you're ripping into Obama, how dare you? Or you're ripping into Trump, like, fuck you. It's like back then it was people were like, oh, it's just funny. Who cares? You know?
There were no sides. There were no sides, no political things. Like I'm not a fan when comics get too political and all that. Like I think we all have our own political beliefs and shit like that. But when like you have to be the moral compass suddenly, it's like you're a comic. You can do this in a much better way.
Yeah. Comedy in a lot of ways is very immoral. You shouldn't be taking a moral high ground in anything.
No. And you have to understand, as a comic, your shit's gonna come up as like, yeah, this is the person making this. So you might as well use your real platform, not like try and be the goody two shoes of the world and all that. It's like, oh, I'm gonna save this.
Yeah, stop virtue signaling.
Great, I'm not gonna go like was it the LeBron thing? Who's like, shut up and dribble, shut up and tell jokes. I'm not gonna do we all have our opinions and all that, but like use your opinion.
You're allowed to have political commentary, but like it's just when you like if you're gonna attack one side, attack both. Because it's so easy to do both. Just do both if you're gonna do it. That's how I feel about it. And that goes on both sides of the spectrum.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, I'm not a fan of Bill Maher, but that's his comedy and he's using that. Do that. But don't be going on like tweeting everything where you're trying to be super serious.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, come on, man. You were just telling fucking fart jokes the other.
Yeah.
Look those up on YouTube. And it's like, calm down. There's other ways that you can do it.
Exactly.
And I try not to be like super political with my shit. Like I said, I started during Trump's election process and shit. I can't tell you the number of fucking Trump jokes I had to hear every time. Like,
anytime the last 4 years, how many fucking Trump jokes there have been?
Is that they just like get that cheap laugh or something? It's like I think I have one Trump joke, and it's me comparing Trump to my dad, just to like make. It's like, nah, Trump's not racist. He's just obliviously racist, like my dad, like that.
I was lucky starting this year where it's just like I didn't have to worry about thinking about like Trump jokes. Like I had like one or two, like, but nothing crazy. I had a Pence joke that I really liked, but that's it. But
yeah, I mean, there's other ones like, oh, that's the easy route. You're just gonna make a Trump joke or some political joke right now.
Like I definitely think now that Biden's president, there's gonna be a lot of comics that like either they flip to Biden or they just drop out of the game because it's like they don't have that hacky joke to fall onto, you know?
Yeah. A lot of comics are going to be missing Trump, let me tell you. Their whole careers pretty much gone to shit now. That it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. It's like, what's funny now? Like, convinced Trump was just like, he shouldn't have had money. If he didn't have money, he would have been one of the greatest stand-ups of all time.
All the comics talk about it. It's like, this dude's a stand-up. He's killing.
Yeah.
He's killing every night. He's killing crowds. He's selling out arenas.
Yeah. That's like, it makes you think like, oh, to be a stand-up, you can't have money. Because like he was raising money. So that's why he went into politics and business. He would have been totally different career path if he was like a middle-class dude.
Oh, yeah. You can take it. Presence. You know, there's something you can get from the guy. It's like, yeah, that dude had a presence. He knew how to fucking operate it. I respect it. I may not respect all the political shit, but it's like,
exactly. I agree.
You're you know, with me for politics, you're fucked either way. I don't.
Yeah, they're all scumbags. That's how I feel.
I have no faith. You know, it's like, all right, cool.
I'm just gonna do me and hope that you're not screwing me somehow.
Like I know they call New York woke York sometimes now because it's got the comedy scene got real woke and all that. I think
for sure.
One of my favorite things is like, you know, I never was like happy that I was a felon until the election. You all can't say anything to me. You can't get on my ass about it. Right? It's like, I'm sorry. I wish I could, but yeah.
No, at least you have that. I just chose not to vote. I still like. I'm 27. I have yet to vote because it's just like no matter what the election, I don't feel comfortable picking the lesser of two evils because either way you're picking evil. So like I just rather someone else choose me. You know.
What is it? The South Park douche or turd sandwich?
Exactly.
Every time. My thing's always been like I haven't had someone I fully believe in.
Exactly. And even if there was somebody like I kind of believed in, I look into it and I'm just like, I don't believe in this guy. Like he's just saying stuff. Like
it's like, all right, I get it. I like you know, with the Robin Williams joke, they should all just wear those NASCAR jerseys with their sponsors on it so we can figure out.
There's a good Richard Jenny bit where it's like he's basically comparing the two sides and he makes it basically just like they're the same person.
Yeah.
And it's a great bit.
That's the thing, you know, and I think that's with like anything really. You just have to it's that accepting of who you are and what life is, essentially. And then just moving on from that. I view comedy really as that like kind of search within yourself.
For sure. I think so, definitely. I feel like I'm the most me I've been my entire life in this past year of just doing this because like I'm fully realizing like the things that make me laugh, things that like I enjoy, things like that. Where it's like before that, like there were things like I thought I liked, and then I look into it more, and I'm just like, man, maybe not so much, you know?
Oh yeah, because you do take that introspective look at yourself when you're performing and stuff like that, and you get this new comfort. Which sometimes makes the people around you uncomfortable.
For sure.
I know I've done shows where my parents have come, and people who know me are always like freaked out that I say certain things in front of them. That my parents are religious and shit like that. So it's like I can't believe you said that in front of your mom and dad. It's like I'm like 30 now.
Yeah.
They've seen me in handcuffs. They've seen me fuck up. I'm pretty sure at this point, me talking about some girl pissing in my bed, they're ready. They're ready. It's time to take the kitty gloves off.
I'm lucky. Like, I think my parents like kind of want to see me, but they also don't. So which I think I have that kind of nice feeling when I don't even have to worry about it. But like at the same time, like I don't care. I think the thing they care more about is like they don't want me to say something like stupid and all of a sudden someone records it and then all of a sudden like I'm fired from my job and shit like that. But it's just like I'm not dumb. Like I'm not gonna say anything that offensive, you know. Like, and if I'm saying something offensive, there's a point to it. Like it's not like I'm just saying stuff just to be fucking shock value, you know.
Yeah.
And I think they don't see that, like, because they're not comedians. They don't understand. Yeah.
Well, you know, it's an understandable fear with, you know,
oh yeah, with your children
and everything with everybody. That's like anything can be taken out of context, and it's like you just deal with it and move on.
Yeah.
Have that thicker skin and shit.
Exactly. And like part of me was like, "What are you gonna cancel me? Like, come on, like you cancel me out of my job that I make just above minimum wage or whatever."
Oh yeah. That's. I always say when I'm at fucking ShopRite, I was like, "Yo, these cameras actually had audio and caught half the shit I say to all of you. The savageness that sometimes just creeps out of me." And I was like, I'd be so fired.
There's certain times where you're like the things you
Mike,
like, even the things you hear, you know, it's just like if HR was here, bro, we'd be done. Like,
oh yeah, catch those. Yeah, it'd be the gym talk, the Trump gym talk and shit like that. Though I have had some funny instances. Like my big thing is like to call people, since this is like a upstate New York, you know, it gets a little hickish. So I say everybody's related or some way or something. And I'm telling this kid, I kept telling this kid that the old guy that worked out 9 with his dad, I was like, yo, you better go check on your dad, make sure he's actually doing his shit. And I did this for a while. And then like one day, you could tell he was like in a bad mood or something. And I did it. And he just looks at me and he goes, you know, my dad's dead, right? And it's like, there's a pause, but I'm an asshole. And like, I paused for like a second or two. I'm like, dude, it's too late now to pull out the dead dad thing. All right. I get you're mad, but it's too late now. All right. So why don't you go check on your dad over there? It makes sense why he's working so slow or some shit. And what's even funny, I tell this kid that works there this story, recently, I tell him this story because I've been picking on him because he was dating one of the cashiers at the time. And I was like, just tell me when you guys break up because I don't want another one of these situations. And he pauses. He's like, yeah, we've been broken up for like the last week or two. I was like, God damn it, yo, I can't win. I keep making these uncomfortable jokes, but nobody tells me. And then later on, I find out the shit. But Mike, I believe I've kept you long enough. I think we got a good bit of talk. Definitely have you back again. Chop it up a little more. I'd love to. You know, definitely be in contact since, you know, we'll be seeing each other in July.
Hell yeah.
Hopefully before, trying to set up my own trip out to Jersey.
I'm sure you come down here, we'll fucking hang out. Definitely.
Yeah, check out some stuff. But Mike, is there anything you want to like plug, share, anything you want the people to check out?
Oh yeah, for sure. Check out the Better Off Drunk podcast. You can listen to us any like place you listen to podcasts, and then obviously YouTube because it's a video podcast as well. So go on YouTube, Better Off Drunk, Instagram, Facebook. Me and another comic, Steve Percaro. It's a good time. If you fucking love drinking, you'll enjoy it for sure.
All right, guys, and of course, you know, if you're listening to this, hey, you found me. But hey, if you want to actually have some conversation or anything, you can hit me up on the Tommy Tom 88 on Twitter and Tommy Tom P88 on Instagram. Mike, once again, it's been a good chat. I enjoyed it.
Hell yeah.
And I will catch you all next time.
I'm Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Flip personality, you know it's I. You never see my kind, never seen a fucking sliver or a slice. I'm the butcher, choice cuts, know I'm nice. You got beef? I got waggle with a knife. Now I'm gonna be wrapping up bodies up at night. Like Ray Charles, y'all know I'm out of sight. Now I'm gonna be slaying niggas, cause you know I love the life. Yo, you gotta read between the lines. I'm only gonna be moving when I'm read through all the signs. Johnny Mnemonic, I got an upgraded mind. This is for the rebels and their revolutionary minds. Cybernetic linguistics, you know I'm on my mind. Prototype the new dimension, man, that shit is mine. Future is creation and creation is sublime. Make your own legend, only happens with time.